Everyone, Master Grogan here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're back with another weekly spotlight show. And for our podcast listeners, this is episode number 297. For our live streamers, this is only the fourth time we've actually done this. And we've had, those who've been watching the live stream, a couple hiccups here and there, but I guess that's all part of it. And I've got another martial artist here with me. And we've been battling through with a little bit of video and audio problems, but we're going to make this thing happen here. And who do I have on the show today? He's a master sergeant. Yeah, listen to me. I'm getting all tongue-tied here. So excited. He's retired military, master sergeant, best-selling author. He's been in martial arts for over 36 years, holds several ranks in several different styles. And I can tell you this, he's one heck of a good human being. And he's one of the American freedom fighters. You know, we agree on a lot of different issues in regards to kind of what our society is going through today, standing up for the rights of others, mainly kids. And his book that he's a bestseller of is called BullyProof, and he's a BullyProof expert. So obviously he and I connect extremely well on several things, but especially that. And the BullyProof that I talk about, so in alignment with what he talks about, and it's all about empowering kids, parents, teens, and adults to stand up for what they believe in, giving them that self-confidence to stand up against any bully they face. And you hear me talk all the time. If you follow on social media, to me, our kids are the ones that are being kind of hung out to dry. They're being bullied on all fronts because not enough people are standing up for them. So what are we going to talk about today? And who am I talking about? Talking about Master Richard Hill. Richard, how are we doing, sir?
Hey, sir, how you doing? Sorry about this camera issue. I don't know what's really going on my end. I'm sure it's my end. I got this ancient dinosaur computer, but man, thanks for that introduction. I don't know. I hope I live up to that.
Oh, you already have, and I'm just blessed and honored that to be friends with you and that you're on the show today. And those that are watching the podcast or the live stream, you're just seeing me right now because we are having some video issues. But those listening to the podcast, you're not going to know the difference, right? You just hear the voice. But if you want to see what Master Richard Hill looks like, I was able to put a little video up or a picture up that he had sent me. But definitely check him out on social media. And Richard, if you want to tell people how to connect with you, your social media links, and where you're from too. So if people that are hearing this or watching this are in your local area, man, they can come check you out for classes.
Yeah. You just I'm on Facebook. Just look me up at Richard Hill, and then the school is TXBBA Frisco. I'm located in Frisco, Texas currently, and I've been here about 5 years now, and I retired from the Army at Fort Hood, and I ran some schools down there, and then I moved up this way because me and my wife got married and we built a house, and so we're up here in good old Frisco, Texas area, North Texas, north of Dallas. So, man, if anybody's in the area, come out, check us out. Just come out, hang out with me, train with me. I love learning new things and just hanging out with good martial artists, fellowshipping like that. Yeah.
Awesome. And being, holding several ranks in several different styles is huge. And I come from, my primary style was Tung Sudo. We always say Tung Sudo, Chuck Norris, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I'm a big believer in what I call the Bruce Lee philosophy. And the Bruce Lee philosophy is you dibble and dabble. You take it all in and you disregard which doesn't align with your core values. This doesn't fit your profile, doesn't align with who you are. Get rid of that. Take in the core. And then the most important element, and I know, Richard, you do a great job because I see your pictures and your videos of all the different unique things you're doing with kids in the camps and in classes and everything else you're doing. You add you add your special flavor, whatever that is, and that's what makes it uniquely your own. And that's obviously the uniqueness of you, which no one else is ever you and can be you, but that's what sets you apart from anybody else, me and anybody else out in the martial arts community. And dabbling in the different styles, I'm sure you've learned countless things that you never would have learned if you just would have stuck with one style. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. And, for me, it was because of the military that I got, so many different styles. I fully believe if I hadn't joined the military, I would still be with my original instructor, and I would have been with him this long. Who knows where I would have been, in his little organization type thing, but I would have only known that style probably. But he liked to dabble in different things too. So we we would have got a little bit, but I wouldn't definitely been where I'm at today through, traveling around the, in the military for 20 years. So trained with a lot of
Oh,
good people, learned a lot of good stuff, and learned a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be doing because it didn't really work.
and Richard, that's what I like so much about you. Well, obviously, one, the military, which I'm going to touch on a lot here, but the humility to say, hey, you know what, this isn't working, or this really wouldn't work in real life. I need to be humble enough to realize that and find something that does. And as you know, being in martial arts 30 something years, almost 40 now for you, there is martial artists tend to have more of an ego than we would like. And I admit I had one for the longest time. And I was doing a primary style for well, my goodness, since back in the early or late 70s, early 80s.
Wow.
And without me opening my eyes and realizing there was more out there, goodness gracious. And I'm not knocking the styles and stuff I've been with, but there's some that fit, some that work, and others that don't. But one thing in life, and I've had my share of encounters, good and bad. If you're not humble enough to admit that you can still learn, I always believe in having a black belt attitude with a white belt mindset, an attitude of excellence, but a mindset of I can continuously learn. For all I know is I know nothing. That's Socrates. That's not mine, but no, I'm going to use it.
That's good. That's absolutely right. But I don't like to bash other styles either, because I think all of them can have something that you can take from. Just take sport taekwondo, right? For instance, because it's in the all right, but a lot of those guys just do a lot of kicking and there's no hands. But what can you take from that? Man, you can have great kicks. You have great solid foundation of your kicks. But think about they're athletes. We both know Roland Osborne, and he pushes that the martial arts athlete. And I can't be more, that couldn't be more true that we need those martial arts athletes, and every martial art can provide something towards you becoming that athlete. And I think that's the way we kind of look at it. You're a martial arts athlete. We're martial arts professionals because that's what we do. And our goal is to train kids to be the best version of themselves. And some kids aren't athletes in basketball or football, but they want to feel like they're an athlete. So make them a martial arts athlete. So I kind of adopted that kind of mindset. When I was from Roland. I don't like preach it all the time as far as being a martial arts athlete, but I preach martial arts. Not in martial arts, no one sits on the bench. If you're playing football, you're playing baseball, someone's got to sit on the bench, and it might be you. But if you come to martial arts, you don't have to sit on the bench.
Oh, it's so well said, and perfect in Mary Poppins, perfect in every imaginable way, because it's true. But so I'm going to ask, when did you have that kind of mindset shift? Do you remember kind of?
It was, for me, it was it was in my first duty assignment in the military. I got stationed in Fort Wainwright, Alaska, and that's in Fairbanks. So they call it the interior of Alaska there. And I started training with a guy. How it happened is that I started training with this guy at the rec center, so to speak, on Fort Wainwright there. And he came from the Ruku Kempo style, which is Maso Yada, they did forms very similar to me. I originally started in what we call Shirinji Kempo, and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. Those were my two styles that I started in, and got my black belt in the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu just before I joined the Army, and then joined the Army. And so I was stationed in Alaska. I was working with this guy. And that's by training with him, kind of opened my eyes to that. And then when I went to my next duty summit, so I kind of just adopted, hey, I'm in the military. I'm not going to find what I want, but I want to keep the same close ties to what my base core style was. And so I kind of did that with the Ruku Kempo, and I just stayed with that for years. And then I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and I met a guy named Jeff Hyder, and he did a style called Taishin Gido, which is just the foundation of that art is Ishinru. And I really fell in love with Ishinru and the concept of Ishinru because of their stances and things like that. It's more natural stances than the deep traditional stance. So if you're going into a street fight, you don't have to try to remember to do which stance. You're always in the same stance, so to speak. Because I remember seeing a video with John Hagelman a while back talking about, people train, we train in the karate and chamber our weapons above our belt, but in a, if you're in a self-defense situation or fight, you don't never put your hands there, right? They're always
Yep.
kind of up. And he's like, why train that way? And I thought about that. I mean, I still train both ways. Of course, you got to have your forms and good tradition, for well-rounded martial arts, I think, and then you got to have them up. But I understand his concept about going back and forth. But that's really kind of just being around the different arts is what keeps my eyes open and keeps me looking for more. And I'm at the point where I don't really have an instructor right now, but I'm always searching and looking to learn and grow somehow, some way to for me, I'm over 50 and my body is, still telling me, hey, you're not 25 anymore, so you got to figure out a new way to do certain things. And as I get older, I still want to be able to protect myself without having to do all the craziness that we've kind of done, but still be more efficient in my movement, so to speak.
No, it's awesome on so many levels there, simply because it's when we're younger, we never ever think about getting quote quote older or more mature or seasoned or whatever term you like there. But that's where the kind of the martial arts should be, as we continue to evolve, kind of an eternal spring, meaning you find a way to adapt to the body that you now have and your abilities that you now have to keep eternally growing. And that eternal spring is, that stream. And spring, you think about spring as the new beginning. Well, every day we've got a new beginning, and that stream keeps flowing. When that stream stops, that's when we got problems. Or I guess maybe we don't have any more problems. It stops, so we're done. But while it's flowing, we want to continue to evolve to be the best we can be with the abilities, be with the body we now have. And that's something, folks will come in all the time, especially us men will say, well, I can't do what I used to be able to do. I can't do this. And I said, well, that's good that you acknowledge that. We're not going to have you jumping off out of trees and off buildings and things. But what you can do is become the best version of who you are today by knowing your body, simply because if somebody's going to attack you on the street, they don't care what ailment you have or don't have. Matter of fact, they hope you've got ailments. Therefore, it's an easy target. You got to be able to defend yourself with what you have there. And that's the beauty of continuing to evolve with martial arts. And it's, the fight that I think most of us, when we get over 50 there, is the beating ourselves down because we can't jump up and kick a tree, branch off a tree anymore. We can't do this. Well, you know what? We live those days, but do we really need to jump in the air anyway? No. Let's stay on the ground and do what we can do. Hopefully we've evolved enough with our hand and combative positions to defend ourselves, but also if we can't jump up and do the best flying side kick over 10 people that we used to be able to do, how can we help a younger version of us who's 15, 16, 17, or in their 20s? How can we teach them to do it? Well, we've got to understand how the technique works, and that's the analytical side. And I think that's what the maturity and growth of being a real, I shouldn't say a real martial artist. I often get in trouble for saying that, but that's the evolution and evolving.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how you have to say, oh, I don't know if I want to say that real martial arts, right? You get in trouble for that kind of stuff. It's just crazy how the world is, but, we do what we do. And I think, martial arts has so many different levels of it, and everybody's version of martial arts is a real martial arts, and
Yeah.
so
And that's why I try and mature myself to grow and not say that, because I used to, it was a number of instructors. Our art's the best, and you can't put another art with it because you'll taint the art, you'll taint the purity. And man, I believed that stuff for the longest time because that's all that was being pumped into my head. And I, share up until 2012, I didn't know I could read because I chose not to. Since then, my mind opened up to, meeting people like Roland and Master Creed with Champion's Way and Dave Kovar, Chip Townsend, Brandon Beliso, and just so many other amazing rock stars out there that I never knew existed before. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, there was several instructors I had that just would rip Taekwondo because, it's not working. It won't work in the street. It won't do this and that. And man, I began to believe that. And then I meet Chip Townsend and I'm thinking, holy cow, this guy's Taekwondo. What's going on here? And it was a very closed, and in a sense, I call it scarcity mindset, because I was afraid of what I didn't know. And that's a
Yeah.
hard way to live, folks. Regardless if we're talking about martial arts or we're talking about success, we're talking about growth, we're talking about parenting or your own maturity. Man, don't live
Right.
with that fixed or scarcity mindset, is scared of what you don't know. Get out there and learn what you don't know, and therefore, man, you're going to be much better for it.
Yeah, I agree. So, I think, now I've kind of adopted the mindset, and I don't know that it's the right one, but when you hear someone try to tell you that their martial arts is the best, it's the end all be all, that's one of the ones you want to stay away from, right? Because I think they feel that they're afraid to see that what they've learned and what they've been taught, and they probably had the same thing drilled into them. It's the only one. It's the only one you'll ever need, right? They're afraid to realize that it's not the truth. It's not the only one you ever need. Like, because if you always do stand up and you never learn to do anything on the ground, you're going to end up on the ground, and then you're not going to know what to do, right? So, and I was that person. I hated to be on the ground. I'll fight someone. Yeah, they go to the ground, but you don't want to be on the ground. And you should never learn this. And then here I am, a blue belt in BJJ now, at 53 years old, and I'm like, it's killing me body wise, so to speak. But I'm having a little fun with it. I don't believe it's end all be all like some people do. I tease my BJJ instructors, about BJJ being a cult like CrossFit is, because you talk to some of those guys, but they are good guys and they believe in both. But back to that thought process, those instructors are ingrained like we were, and I was in an organization that was like that, where you don't cross train. If you cross train, we're gonna kick you out and strip you of your rank. And I'm like, you're gonna strip me of my rank? Like, I earned it, and you're gonna, well, here's my belt back, right? But you can't take what my knowledge is in my mind and my heart, kind of thing. But that's the kind of the mindset they had, and I think it was a lot of it is they were afraid that to see someone point out the holes in their art or their system,
Why not? I talk about that all the time, having a fragile ego,
Yep.
and somebody starts poking around at that thing, and it's. And I openly admit I had one. I
Yep.
thought from what I'd been taught and this and that, and of course I would the exact same concept. Oh well, you just don't want to go to the ground. Well, what happens if you do? Well, then I would say, well, don't what if me, just don't go to the ground. Well,
Right.
that's ridiculous. It's
Right.
ridiculous. And I'd wrestled for years, and then played hockey to a really competitive level. So obviously balancing, standing up, and
Right.
I had my taste of all of getting beat up a lot. But back to you and your humility, 53 years old, and you're saying, you know what, I could learn more. I'm in jujitsu, and I'm getting a little bit of a beating on the ground. But what I'm
Yeah.
doing is I'm evolving as a human being, not only just a martial artist. And my take on, and I've been blessed, got to go to Korea 4 different times, spend
Nice.
time over there with some of the best. And of course, you learn the good and the bad, with
Right.
that. The best meaning they're the best in their own mind, but not challenged in any other way. And then the best because of their humility. And that's where our number one black belt principle is humility. And it's put there for a reason, simply
Mhm.
because I need to be reminded of that often, because I wrote an article, this is years ago now. I don't even remember how long ago, maybe 10 years ago. It was ego versus humility. And I
Right.
titled ego edging greatness or edging God out, meaning
Right.
I don't need help. I got this thing. But that's what I did. My ego was covering up for because it was so fragile. I put on this, as we're going to talk about in a little bit here, our bullyproof armor. But that
Right.
armor wasn't very solid, because it has to be really built from the inside out in order to have that true confidence of belief in yourself. And
Right.
but no, that's fantastic. So let's the military. You're a sergeant
Yeah.
major for you're in the military for 20 years. You got to travel over, meet a lot of cool people, and I personally was never in the military. It is something that I wanted to do. My dad is a wounded Vietnam vet. He was over there
Oh
in
man.
68, 69, and he actually was 101st Airborne, and he
Okay.
provided mortar support to Hamburger Hill,
Hmm.
which I didn't even know about until uh, uh, not this past Christmas, but I recently moved to Florida, so I tried to spend as much catch-up time with my family as I could. And my mom told me all about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I ever know this? But anyway, I turned 18. I'm like, I'm going to the military. I was going to the Marines, or going to be like Dad in the 101st Airborne. And we never got along a whole lot growing up, because I was an immature punk kid, and he was seasoned in all the wrong ways, and he just knew that he didn't want me to have to go through that. So anyway, long story short, ended up getting a chance to go to Korea 4 different times. So that was the military experience, and still to this day, there's a part of me that wishes I would have done it, but I'm proud of me for respecting my dad enough to honor his wishes. So
Right.
That was that. So anybody that's in the military, my heart absolutely goes out to you. And that's why, I believe you stand for the gosh darn American flag. That's why I've got a tattoo of the American flag with an eagle and a cross on my chest
Yes,
because of
sir.
that very reason. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But that is only obtained by those that have fought for our freedoms. That's why we need to fight today for the freedoms of the next generation, or we're not going to have those freedoms.
That's right.
So,
That's right. That's awesome because we align with that whole thing about what's going on in the world, and you're definitely a warrior, a freedom warrior, a patriot, and it's awesome. So thanks for what you do, because you're like kind of like me. We're trying to put out the truth out there that's being suppressed by mainstream media and stuff, and people need to know that. And so you're fighting the good fight, man, and that's why I'm honored to be alongside of you with it.
I appreciate that, buddy. And like I said, giving me goosebumps here. And obviously,
Right.
I learned that oftentimes I drift. I've got, I don't know, a bit of OCD and ADD, ADHD, and this and that. So I get locked in on a topic, man. It's a hill I'm worth dying on. And kids being bullied by not only kids on the playground, but like I said, the mainstream media, corrupt governors and politicians, and all the ugliness of political gain. I'm willing to die on that hill, and at the same time, I've lost a lot of people that I respected and were friends, and I don't mind losing people that aren't willing to open their mind because there's nothing I can do. But I also got to remember that I've got to do a better job of trying to communicate with others to help them see what and be open enough and humble enough to learn on my own too.
Right.
And that's where sometimes I struggle.
Yeah, same. I think we all do. Is how we're passionate about it, and we're like, man, why can't you see this? And that's sometimes that's the wrong answer. That drives them away. Is like kind of grab them by the shoulders and can't you see this? That's really the wrong answer. We just have to keep planting the seed, and maybe not, and just eventually, I think more and more people slowly start to see some of the ridiculousness of the stuff going on and going, wait a minute, and they start asking the questions they should have been asking long ago. And that they'll come to us. We can, what's the old saying? You can only lead the horse to the water. You can't make him drink it, right?
And Rich, I'm going to top foot on that. It was, and this may have been, I don't want to quote the wrong person here, but I said, yeah, you can only lead the horse to the water. They got to be, and I grew up on a farm, so I don't know how many times in the winter there, I would have to break the ice with sledgehammer in the water trough, bring the horse over, and I'd put the gosh darn horse there, force it to get its head in the water. And if it didn't want to drink, I mean, obviously, what am I going to do against a 1,000-pound animal here? I'm a little kid, but I'm trying to force it. Come on, dummy, you haven't drank all day. The water's been frozen. You need this. The horse is like, hey, I'll drink what I want to drink. But I actually took that a step further. One of the mentors at one time says, yeah, well, think of it this way. You can't feed a rock. If someone's rock solid, you can't, hey, rock, eat this food. Well, rock's not going to budge. It's not going to eat. So
that's true. That's right. You can't, I like that. You can't feed a rock. I'm going to have to remember that and use that from time to time.
But now it's all about the humility. It gets back to that, and what you're doing, what you've done, and what you continue to do with obviously your book, with the kids you work with at your academy, with the example you're setting by continuing to dibble dabble in other arts and continuing to progress, speaks wonders. And then also the humility in order to, well, and this is another reason why we connect so well, is realizing, darn it, maybe I pushed, and I've never ever thought I could ever push too far, because a lot of the life growing up on the farm, being a poor farm boy, it was told all the things I couldn't do. You're just a dumb poor farm boy. You're not going to be able to do this and this. So I had the kind of FU attitude to the world, and I was going to prove everybody wrong, which was good. I call it Bobby Boucher tackling fuel. But when you allow that to consume your life, then that's all you're doing, is trying to prove others wrong. And what are you really doing? So that was a humbling lesson for me to learn, but I often fall back into that pattern. So it's good to obviously talk to people like yourself and the people I surround myself with now as a reminder when I start to do that drift.
Yeah.
So your book, and I thought I've got a copy. I haven't unloaded all the boxes from my, still in the process of been a few months or 6 months now, but I think I left it at the academy because I wanted the other instructors to read it in regards to what you did. And I know you wrote the book, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago?
Oh, wow. 2015. So it's been 7 now?
Oh, gosh, darn.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
when the heck did we meet at the Super Show? Was that
No,
15?
no, we met. Well, that's a great question. I was trying to think of the other day. I thought we met in 2013. Um, but was it 15? I don't remember, because my first Super Show was 2013. And I don't remember if we met that one or if we met like at one of the 14 or 15,
It was 14 or 15 because it was, oh my gosh, that was one of the first or second ones I ever went to. So
Yeah.
whatever year
13
that
was my
was, I
first one.
went.
Yeah.
So maybe it was 14 was the first one I went to, and then 15. And I'm trying to think because I had actually Professor Beliso there. He was doing.
Mhm.
He's the first person that I saw doing video blogs, and I
Right.
saw him do it, and I'm like, well, gosh darn, I can do that. Well, it's one thing to say you can do it, and I still kept my very first video. I actually had the camera sitting. I leaned it up against the computer, and I'm kind of squished down to try and talk to it. But I kept that one because it was. I have people ask all the time, "How do you do those videos?" I'm like, "Well, you just got this thing, this phone, right? Well, you just." I tell them about the first one I did. It's terrible. I said, now I've got the stand and the boom mic and all the other essentials that you need. But I just remember him doing it. So the chance to meet him was something awesome. And that's also
Yeah.
the year I met Chip Townsend for the first time.
Yep.
I'd watched his TED Talk and several other things. And what I was surprised was how open and inviting every one of these people that I've been watching their videos were, and just kind of, I always felt like I was never worthy. And that was one of my
Right.
limited beliefs and defects. And these guys just invited me in like I was lost brother. And I'm like, really? Holy cow. What? So it
Yeah.
was so open and inviting. And then the same with you. I know when we first met, man, it's I'd seen you and seen your things before, and instant connection there. And that's the beauty of getting out and going to events like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I stinks. I've missed the past few of them. Of course, I guess last year and the year before was all virtual, but I didn't make the one before that. I think that was what, 18 or 19, whichever the last one was. I don't remember.
19, I think.
Yeah, and
Yep.
yeah, I think that's the one. I missed that one. I don't even remember why, but I couldn't make it out there for that one, and so I miss going to those things, to reconnect with people like you and to meet new people. That's, you're right. I met, Mr. Belicio there, and Mr. Townsend. It's where I met Buddy Hudson, who's become a really good friend of mine, and he's here in my area. He lives, about 30 minutes from me, so we connect probably once a month. And then, I should kick myself. Master Townsend is in Texas too, in Abilene, I think is the area, and it's not.
Mhm.
It's a few hours from here, but I mean, that's something I should go up and say hi to him. And actually, I had some students talking about breaking the other day, and I was like, well, I know this guy who is all about breaking and holds world records, and you know what, I can ask him, and we can bring him in for a seminar if you really want to learn how to do some breaking, and so that's a thought in my mind, is to reach out to him and find out what a seminar from him is going to cost us, and how much wood and stuff we'll need for him to come out and do it. I think my students would love it.
Oh,
For that.
absolutely. You get a
Yeah.
chance to go to. I think he's got 6 schools in his area there. Go
Wow.
check one of them out. I mean, he's amazing. He helped my son and I. We did our baseball bat break a few
Yeah, I
years
saw
ago.
that. I saw that. Oh my gosh. I'm like,
That was,
I look at that and I go, oh, I don't know if I ever even want to try that.
uh, well, and I tell you, speaking of that, real quick, I through I played, like I said, hockey. It was always my dream to be a pro hockey player. That never worked out, and that's okay. And I played football at competitive level, and hockey is as far as it could take me. I
Yeah.
still play today, but
No.
I've had 8 knee surgeries, 7 on I'm sorry, 7. Yeah, 7. I'm sorry, 7 knee surgeries, 6 on one leg and 1 on the other.
Oh,
And the right leg it's the one that's had the 6 surgeries. And one of the surgeries, they actually had to cut the femur in half and realign it because there was it was called a femoral osteotomy. So essentially, it's almost like a realigning a table leg. They cut the femur, put a
right.
spacer and a wedge in to shift the pressure from the lateral side, the outside, to the medial side, and then they bolted the femur back together with a plate and 7 bolts. So from that point on, I was always extremely reluctant about hitting anything with my right leg.
Right.
I mean, it was I would, and I'd go through and have to demonstrate techniques and do different breaks. But man, oh man, you talk about it, because I would have literally nightmares that I would kick something and my leg would literally break off. Now I know that's extreme, but that was a nightmare. So when the opportunity came to do this bat break, I remember even in the warm-ups, I was so gosh dang reluctant, I wouldn't even turn in my foot over. And I see the video of it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so terrible. But it was just the fear. And then right before the break, I just closed my eyes and said, I'm doing this thing, and just blasted through, and that freaking bat exploded. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the video of that. I'm like, and when I saw it, and you broke it, and I was like, oh my God, my shin is just screaming right now. Like, how did you do that? Because I can't bump my shin on the edge of the bed without falling to the floor and crying like a baby. But
Isn't that the weirdest thing? You'll do something like that. Well, I talk about do an elbow break of,
right.
The best I've done was 7 of those 2-inch blocks. And I think, I could bump my elbow on the gosh darn wall and probably break it. But here I'm able to do this. Well, it's obviously, we know martial artists, it's a state of mind, overcoming fears, battling through challenges, and then that ability to put your mind elsewhere, which is so amazing what the mind and body is capable of. And that gets back to how little we actually tap into that. But yeah, I could run and hit my elbow on the darn counter, and I'm like, oh gosh, what the heck?
Right.
But no, I hook up with Master Chip. He is just an amazing human being in so many areas. And those listening, if you're not following me, I think he wrote the foreword for my book, which is hopefully coming out soon. And he's a 14 or 15 time world breaking champion. He holds 5 or 6 world records. And in the world record, he broke 4 baseball bats with 1 kick, which is absolutely insane. But I'm telling you, one of the most humble human beings on the planet. And I learned so much from him. And he's also got a great TED Talk. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. So, and he's been on the podcast countless times as well. Just a good human being.
Yeah, he is. He really is. I've met him in person once, and kind of, you'll talk or, have interaction with him through Facebook stuff and stuff like that. But, I really enjoyed meeting him the time I met him at the Super Show. And, he was just a really great guy. And, I should kick myself in the butt for not, we live close enough that I should be able to reach out to him, and at least visit and stuff like that. My first Super Show, I met a guy named Garland Johnson, and he runs, he has 2 schools that he owns in Colorado Springs, but then he has 45. Now this was in 14, I guess. He has 45 affiliate schools of his, right?
Oh, goodness.
And when I was when I retired from the Army, I was a contractor, and I was running my school part time, and so I had to be out in Colorado for a training event, because as a contractor, I was still training soldiers in my area of expertise at that point. And so I messaged him and said, hey, I'd love to come out and see you. And one of his schools is like he bought an old firehouse and converted a firehouse into a school, and it's beautiful, and I loved it. But those events, you link up with and meet great people like yourself, and you can. You just got to network out there, and that's what I like about those events. And I was doing the MABS events for a while. Did you ever go to one of the MABS events with that?
I went to the first one, the very first one.
So. Yeah, I thought so. I thought we were there at one of them for then. Yeah, and that was a twofold event for me. My daughter lives in Manhattan, over near Times Square, so I could that was a yearly event. I could go see my daughter and write it off as a tax write-off too.
That's a win-win.
Right.
You're exactly right. You got to get out. And that's back to, I talk about 2012 was kind of a major shift in my life, getting out and going to these conferences, going to these events, going to these workshops, and just meeting people that I never knew existed, and learning about authors that I never knew existed. Heck, I talk about it. I never heard of Zig Ziglar before prior to 2012. And I'm like, holy smokes. And now I'm a Ziglar trainer, speaker, coach.
Yeah, you are. And that's awesome.
Friends with Tom Ziglar. I actually posted a video. I was in Texas back in June of June of when? 2020, last year. And we were doing a certification, and I had Tom Ziglar break a board. Now the board didn't break the first time, so he had to go through and do it again. And as it would be, I had planned and scheduled the video to air or to post on his birthday. It didn't go to the second day. So I kind of titled it, hey, just like the board didn't break the first time, the video didn't upload the first time. So but we're not giving up. Just like today, the video's not working, but we're not giving up. We're battling through, which reminds me, folks, I see a handful of people watching, and they're coming and going. I'm talking to Master Richard Hill, a fantastic, amazing human being. retired military, best-selling author, amazing martial arts academy that he runs in Texas. So if you jump on, please give us a shout out, ask any questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them and get back to you. So if you're watching the live stream here, you're just going to see me in a blank screen where Richard's at, and that's because he's in his ninja stealth mode right now. No, we're having some video difficulties. But if you're hearing the podcast, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is also a reminder. Make sure you follow and subscribe. Grogan's BullyProof. And it's what's it called? Yeah, Grogan's BullyProof is the podcast name, and it's available worldwide on all podcast apps and channels there. And then online, it's Grogan's BullyProof on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Now we're streaming to, and then our YouTube channel as well. So check those babies out for not only amazing guests like Richard Hill, but when I do the Feel Good Fridays and different inspirational, motivational things there to pick you up, lift you up, and help you live your best kicking life. Well, good stuff. Well, tell us about the book. We touched on a lot of different topics. How did that come about? And I know you co-authored with somebody else. Or
co-authored with on that one. I'm co-authored with 9 other people actually. So there's 10 chapters in the book. We each wrote a chapter. And it came about as I met Alex Chango, and he's the one that kind of put it together and brought a lot of us martial artists together. A couple of those people in that book are out of Great Britain. So it was, so it's truly international. And we all did our piece of the book and wrote the book. And then Alex kind of helped. I shouldn't say help. He did. Alex is the reason for that book. And now he went ahead together. With that, we're part of the BullyProof America nonprofit that he has. And there's 6 volumes total, and in the last volume, the 6th volume is all ATA instructors. He did a whole thing so the ATA took a whole book and volume of that book and did it. So, but that was super fun, and I keep telling everyone I'm going to do another one, and I have an idea for that, and I've kind of laid out a small draft. It's just a matter of hey, you got to sit down and do it and prioritize it. And Alex did all that stuff, so I have to figure out how we go from putting the book together, getting it done and printed and stuff like that, and put it out there. But it was great. When that thing went live, it hit #1 in Germany and England before it hit #1 in the US. And so it was pretty cool. Right. And so it's pretty cool. I still push. I have that book up in my office. I sell it, I'll give it to kids that come in that really are struggling. If a parent comes in and doing it, I'll sign that book and hand it right over to them. I don't have a problem with doing things like that. But the book was really fun, about bullying. It's never going away. We have to keep bringing it out, and we have to keep empowering kids to be able to have the confidence to stand up. And really, that's the whole thing, that you do and I do, is trying to build confidence for kids to stand up, because when they're confident, they won't do it. In Roland's, I know we keep going back to Roland, but he really has some great things to say. But he, in his program, BullyProof program, he says there's no confidence like self-defense confidence. I use that line all the time because it's so true. It's so true. There's no confidence like self-defense confidence, and if you have the confidence you can defend yourself, man, you should have the confidence that you can go out and conquer the world. My students, when they bow on the mat, I have them say, yes, I can. And when they bow off the mat, I have them say, yes, I can. And the yes, I can is to have a positive attitude. And I tell them my school is, it's a negative-free zone. You leave all the negative stuff outside. You come in, yes, I can. I'm going to do my best. And when you bow off that mat, you say, yes, I can. And you're empowered to go take over the world. And that's what I try to tell my kids, man, you guys need to, why do I want to take over the world? I said, because we need great people like you to take over the world and run the world. Because, of course, here we are. Look at where we're at, right? And,
lack of leadership.
Right. Lack of leadership and people, selling us out, and it's just terrible, for what that. So we have to try to change these minds, and sometimes we're the only link to the outside world from what these kids see it depending on the school they go to and what's being pushed at the school and what their parents think, that gives them a different perspective of something. Like I just brought in a new assistant instructor in my school, and this young man is 23. He's really outgoing, but the thing is that I had to let parents know, hey, we're going to bring this guy in, but let me tell you a little bit about him. He's got tattoos on his forehead and his neck. and stuff like that. So I wanted people to be aware. And I told them, look, we're not about not letting people have the opportunity to come in and train, share their experiences, because this young man has had a rough childhood, and what helped him and saved him to where he's at now. And the tattoos shouldn't matter to people, right? We should be accepting of that. Because you and I know we've been around. You look at all these big biker dudes sometimes, and they're like big strapping dudes and look mean, and they're some of the most nicest, humblest guys you'll ever meet in your life. And so we often judge book by cover, and so you can't do that. And I had many parents step out and say, "Hey, you know what? That's really great that you're doing that. We appreciate that." And that you're giving people opportunities, and that you're accepting of different things. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Most people don't know. I'm huge accepting of different things, because I have my middle child was born a girl and identifies as a boy and is going through the transformation stuff. And they're like, how do you do that? For me, and I think for you, we're believers, and well, what about God? I was like, well, God says to love, so that's all I can do, right? It's the rest of it's between him and God. My portion of what God tells me is to love my child, and that's all I'm going to do. Like it or not like it, that's neither here nor there for anyone. My job is to just love my child, right? And so we just love on people, and that's kind of the message I wanted to share with my students and stuff. Hey, we're just going to love on people that need that love, and if it inspires them to be better, or if they can inspire us to be better because they're different and they can give us a different perspective of that. Because this young man goes through life with, he chose to have the tattoos, and he told the kids, hey, don't do it. Don't put tattoos on your face. He's 23, so I think he's proud of him, but I don't want him to have the regret of that. You did it for you because that's what it meant to you at the time. But he'll tell kids, man, don't do it. And, but be yourself, and that's a big thing. His message is to put out, it's like he went through some struggles. And the reason he's not at one of his former schools is because he was being bullied by his instructors about the stuff. And it was like, I can't go to school I can't be there if I'm being disrespected and bullied about tattoos, and so he found a new home, and so far he's been great with us. There's been a couple of kids who've been scared of him, but once they get to know him, he's like, there's kids that never smile on the mat when I was there, and now he's on the mat and they're always smiling. I'm like, what in the world? It's like I'm the old guy, grandpa, we can't, whatever. But you got this young guy, and he's making them laugh and smile, and the parents are laughing and smiling. I'm like, what in the world? So but I'm glad I brought him in, because I think he's really brought a new energy to the school for us.
Fantastic. And it goes, everybody's got a story to tell and experiences that they've learned from that can impact people in a positive way if we're willing and open enough to listen. That's fantastic.
Willing and open. But it goes to that whole BullyProof stuff, and bullying. He's being bullied in a martial arts school, right? By other martial artists. So I mean, it's like, at that point you're like, well, that's one of the schools you definitely don't want to be at. Right. They're teaching the wrong things or doing the wrong things, or they're teaching one thing and doing the opposite thing, and to me, that's really a big thing. It's like, I don't want to be, I struggle with things like most people do. I struggle with impatience. You don't want to ride with me as a driver. I have my own views of driving, and you need to get out of the left lane so I can get moving. And kind of thing. And so, people are like, yo, you have such patience with the kids on the mat. I said, yeah, but that's the only place I have patience, because if you ride with me, I have zero patience, right? But at the same time, I struggle with that, because I want to practice what I preach to these people about taking a deep breath and relaxing and trying to be calm. And that's a struggle, for me. But by going to the school, it's like, okay, I got to try to remember to do this. And sometimes I fail miserably at it, and sometimes I do okay at it,
I think obviously it goes right back to you as a person being humble enough to say, hey, I've got faults too, man. I goof up. I've got, here are my warts, here are my sins, here are my things. But gosh darn it, I am not perfect. I'll never claim to be perfect, but I'm doing what I can to learn from my mistakes and pass on to others. Kind of the message I always give, not only my own kids, but everybody I talk to is, look, the organization I was with for 26 years, and it was finally time to part ways, was because of that. It was like, well, you're a master. You have to carry yourself that. You can't admit fault. You can't admit this, because then people will look down on you. And I'm like, really? And then, of course, the bullying that you're talking about, boy, oh boy, I'm a fun guy. I like to have fun. I like to goof around. And I was always very respectful. I had a military dad and growing up on a farm, hard work. But then I also thought, there's times, especially when you're working with kids, that you need to have fun with them. You can't be the militaristic drill sergeant. And I'm not saying you give them a belt or a trophy or anything they haven't earned. By all means, they're going to earn it, but they earn it at the best of their ability. Because, like you said earlier, not every kid is an athlete. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And it's not every kid's going to be able to jump up and fly over 10 people and break a board. Some kids can barely get off the ground. But what we evaluate on, same thing you're evaluating on, is the attitude and effort of that individual to put forth their very, very best and then make them feel good about that so they're willing to try even more. Because if you break them down, and of course, that's a fine line because people say, well, no, you should be harder. No, I'm all about firm and I'm all about attitude and effort and doing your best. But what Albert Einstein say, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to go through its whole life thinking it's an idiot.
That's right. That's right.
A fish in water is where a fish thrives. Climbing a gosh darn tree, that's for a cat. But a cat in water, they don't thrive there. No. And unfortunately, we try and fit everybody in that same proverbial round hole. And that's, it's something I talk about a lot is, the round hole cookie cutter system of school systems and everything else. I mean, come on, man. So, but that's good.
Yeah. You bring that up, that cookie cutter system, and it brings me, my mind immediately goes to, there's schools out there that teach and do the wrong things and, push belt through that are considered McDojos. And then there's schools that are McDojos, but they still do good stuff. Right. And here's the thing, because people, say about that, don't know why that transitioned to this particular topic. It just gets me, but McDonald's is a successful business and they have thousands of franchises. So I mean, why could, sometimes it's okay to say, yeah, I have a McDojo because I have a successful business going, but it's really a matter of what do you produce and what are you doing? If you're a school that's producing bullies or you're bullying your own instructors, you've not set up the right model, right? And you don't have the right things to reproduce. And that's just going to eventually be a downfall to you, I think. And some of those schools still get through it somehow because some people think that their kids need to have, to be that big tough kid because I'm a karate school and our school's better and we'll beat your kids up. And you're like, well, that's kind of bullying. That's kind of not you've been kind of taught the wrong way, And
it's and there's obviously something said about both there, but I think the whole it's whatever is in alignment with your core values and what you want to be known for and the legacy you want to be. And for too many years, I tried to be everything to everyone. And the only thing I ended up being was miserable to myself and my family and pretty much everyone. So now we align with our core values. We're a life skills, leadership, character development, and bully-proof academy that teaches practical self-defense. That's what we focus on. And, people come in and we don't even give them a uniform or a belt for the first few weeks. We give a T-shirt to be a part of the class so they can feel like they fit in, but they got to earn the darn thing. And, and let parents know, hey, we may not be for you, and that's okay. We'll part as friends, and I'll do my best to find a place that's for you.
That's right.
And that's fine. Neither here nor there, but that's my firm belief is you set the precedence early that the kids they know they got to earn it. It's not going to be given to them because mommy and daddy pay for it or mommy and daddy are buddies with the instructor. And some folks, if that's your model and that works for you, by all means, don't. I listen to things and I take in the good, kind of the Bruce Lee thing again and put out the bad, but it's got to align with your core values. What makes you feel good at night? And that's where we are. And for years, I would chase that shiny ball, right? The shiny red object. Oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try this. Let's try this. And I didn't know who the heck I was, and nor did any of my students.
Yep. I did it for years. Oh, there's the next new shiny object. There's the next new shiny object. That's what I did for years.
This is going to work, man. This is going to get me 10 new students, and that's all I need to pay the bills.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And folks that aren't in the martial arts community that are listening to this, apply that to your life. Are you constantly chasing the shiny red object, the new thing that's out? The get rich quick schemes. You do this, and in 30 days, find what aligns with your core values and stick to it. But also realize, you got to put in the work to make it happen. You got to till up the garden, plant the seed, nurture the seed, cultivate the garden continuously, and then you may get a crop. Then again, you may not, but you got to stay at it. But the worst thing in today's society, and Zig Ziglar summed it up with this back in the 70s. He said,
Yep.
too many people stand by the wood stove and say, give me heat, and then I'll give you wood. Well, it doesn't work that way. You
No, that's
got to
right.
put the wood in first.
That's
But
right.
or you go to your boss and say, look, pay me more, then I'll work harder. No. That's backwards. And this is back in the 70s, for crying
Yeah,
out
yeah,
loud.
right. And
What in the
yeah,
world's happening now?
you mentioned Zig Ziglar, right? And you said you didn't come to know him till what, 2012 or so. I don't think I really came to know who Zig Ziglar was and Jim Rohn until maybe, 13, 14, maybe. And then now I have quite a few of his books, Born to Be Great and See at the Top and stuff like that. And then I saw that you were out here doing that certification in 20 for Zig Ziglar. I said, oh man, that's awesome, and now I follow people like the Jim Rohns and Zig Ziglars and John Maxwell and
Yeah, Maxwell. Yep.
things like that, and but I think I love listening to Zig Ziglar talk and stuff, and those old guys when they talk and pass on knowledge like that, and you're like, they're thinking of this stuff back then, and I think, man, how much further along would I be had I known about it back then, and so I use things like that to kids nowadays, and I push it out loud to my school that hopefully a parent will pick it up, and maybe because adults are egoed. Women, men, both the same, and their egos are different, but they're like, oh, I don't need to learn this stuff, or they're struggling and won't tell anybody they're struggling. And so sometimes when you say things on the mat, hopefully it grabs one parent's attention, and we may never know whether we did or didn't, but I hope and pray that that I've touched some parent somewhere that has says, you know what, let me look at that, and they pick up a Zig Ziglar book or a Jim Rohn thing or something like that, or follow something like that, and start changing their lives. Whether I ever know about it or not, that'd be, I probably won't, but I hope that at least at some point something I say will resonate with someone and they change their life for the better.
Well, that gets back to Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, forget they may forget who you are, what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And
Right.
especially if you help them on something that you had no idea, kind of like the thing I mention a lot, and I try and pass it on my kids. Look, I want to plant a tree that I'll never enjoy the shade under, but I know
Right.
that somebody will. And
That's
I
right.
obviously, in 2012, I was 42 years old, and why in the world would I read or attend a conference or a workshop or watch a webinar? What the heck am I really going to learn? Oh my gosh, it was a scarcity fixed mindset, and which is a great book, Mindset by Dr. Carol DeWick, and she really dives in deep with that. But yeah, Jim Rome had talked about, he'd always said, man, why didn't I learn this stuff earlier? And he goes, now I've come to the conclusion, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yep.
Right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
And people, oh, you know what? I've probably only got about, 20, 30 years left in my life. I've already lived the majority of my life. Well, do you want to make the next 20 or 30 years the best? Or you want them to be just a continuation of what you're doing?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You want to change,
Yeah,
you got to change.
And that's the thing with with old, I say older people, adults who, they're starting to, like, we're in our 50s, we're kind of set in our ways, but we have the open mindedness and the humbleness to say, you know what, sometimes our ways are not, benefiting us or others around us, so we need to change them. And if we can impart that to other adults, but mainly into kids, to grow up with an open mind and understand, you bring up Carol DeWick's book, The Mindset, man, what a great book. It's a little more than what kids should read, but what a great book to understand that between that fixed mindset and growth mindset thing. And when I read that book, I was like, oh man, I had such a fixed mindset. And I know someone I believe you're pretty close to, Nick Doherty, right? And he's one that kind of smacked me in the face, literally, not literally, but one time. And it was just on a phone call with him many years ago. And he was like, man, he goes, Richard, that's just a scarcity mindset right there. And I was like, scarcity mindset, what the hell are you talking about? And kind of looked into it. And that's where I found out. And I tell you, I've seen Nick grow from the time I first met him to where he's at now. I've seen him grow over the years, and what a great growth for him as well. But he's the one that kind of smacked me in the face with that scarcity mindset. And I don't remember exactly what it was we were talking about, but I'm sure it was something martial arts related. And business related or marketing related or something like that. And he said, man, that's just a scarcity mindset and you got to change that. And I was like, man, who are you to tell me this? Because I remember years ago. And, but that's when I kind of got that whole read the book and things like that. I was like, okay, now I understand what he's saying. And he's right. He's right.
Yeah. And just a reminder, listeners, and those that watch it on the stream here, talking to Master Richard Hill. And even if you're not in the martial arts community, I get a variety of different guests. Apply whatever we're talking about to any area of your life that you might be struggling with. Maybe you've got a fix or a scarcity mindset. Maybe, you haven't read a book or surrounded yourself with the right group of influences and people, or maybe you're standing in front of that stove saying, give me heat, then I'll give you wood. Just kind of think about that for a little bit here. And then most importantly, and that's our biggest goal here, is have the humility, and not necessarily to admit that you were wrong and I was right. And don't do that. I've lived my life doing that. And yeah, we all like to be right, but at what cost? But do it, open-mindedness, learn, the ability to learn and maybe change things. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expect a different result. You don't like the result you're getting. If you keep touching the darn stove and keep getting burnt, you keep believing lies from people and you keep getting burnt, open your mind and say, wait a minute, I need to think differently about this. But it's up to you to whatever you listen to, what you put in is what you're going to get out. My favorite Zig Ziglar quote is, you are where you are and what you are by what's gone into your mind. You can change where you are and what you are by changing what goes into your mind. And I am absolute living proof of that. And it's kind of funny you brought up Nick, because I just reached out to him the other day. I hadn't talked to him in years. I was going through something with Jeffrey Gittimore. He kind of introduced me to Jeffrey Gittimore, some of his books. And I remember one of the first webinars I saw with Nick, I remember him talking about stepping off the mat and how he was doing this as he evolved. And at that time, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but how in the world am I supposed to do that? Oh, it must be good for you. Or what I absolutely hate, and I'm frustrated myself for ever saying it, but it was one of those things I can say now that I said it, and I'm people that say it don't say it is, well, must be nice.
Yeah,
I was that person. I hate that because it's such a limiting, self-bullying belief. Believing that, oh, I could never do that. Well, yeah, you can, but you got to be willing to put in the work. And it starts with checking that darn ego and kicking that bully in your mind out, saying, no. That's a limiting belief. That's a scarcity mindset. I can do it. Is it going to be tough? You gosh darn right it's going to be tough. But obviously, any kind of change, and what's Tony Robbins talks about, usually people have to get to such a low point in their life, and the pain is so great there that the fear of the unknown pain is no longer that great a fear, because the constant state of pain you're in right now, and that's, anybody that's an addict or has an addiction, it has to be where you're so far rock bottom, now I'm willing to change. But it all starts with admitting you've got a problem, and everybody's problems are different, but if you want to change, you got to admit, hey, I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah right on. Bing. Hit the nail right on the head on that one.
Bing, bang, boom, right hook of reality. Coming
right hook of reality. I love it, right? I use your hashtag there quite a bit, through things like that about, hitting that right hook of reality, because a lot of stuff today, man, it's like, bam, you got to be hit with it to kind of wake you up.
Yeah. And I was on a podcast not too long, and they asked how that came about. And I guess 14 or 15, I was either giving a presentation or maybe teaching a class. And I said, man, that's like getting hit with a right hook, isn't it? And I said, yeah, you're keeping it real. And I'm like, whoa, and boop, bells went off. Right. So I immediately went to, GoDaddy and right hook reality. Oh, so I bought the domain name and been hammering it.
Nice. That's awesome. It's
amazing how those things happen, right? Yeah. So I follow it up with a left uppercut of truth, but I haven't had, that's too long to type out. So
yeah, it is. Right, the left uppercut of life.
Right hook reality, left uppercut of truth, and then I think my son Austin said, "Why don't you call it a what do you call it? A round kick of not reality,
righteousness."
I forgot what he called it. And then of course, the instructor spun off. What about a wheel kick of this or a side kick of that? And I'm like,
just go right off. Yeah.
Come on, guys, bring it. Whatever, get that mind, get those creative thoughts going. But,
yeah.
Good stuff. And you mentioned Zig Ziglar. When I first heard of him, I dove right in, and the first audiobook I bought was Better Than Good, which is the last book that Zig narrated. So it was late in his life, and it was
Oh,
very
wow.
delayed and very slow. And it was a 7-disc audio book.
Wow.
And I remember that was the year, goodness gracious, I had quit teaching as a PE teacher to do the business full time. So now I was Mr. Mom. I'm picking the kids up from school, and
Right.
I'd pick them up and would rock out on the radio. But now I got Zig Ziglar's disc in the CD player. And I remember the first time the kids had picked them up, and they kind of looked at each other, looked back at me, and said, "Dad, what is this?" Well, we want to hear music. And I turned around and was like, just listen, just shut up and listen, because this is good for you. Here, I'm trying to motivate them, tell them something good, and I'm yelling at them to shut up.
Right.
What a
Right.
knucklehead. But now, and then of course, "Dad, do we have to listen to Zig again?" That was kind of the theme from then on.
Right.
But now they're able to quote Zig probably better than I can. And it's because I planted those seeds early and often.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's good stuff right there. Yeah. I have a few of his, books on, audio type, actually on, CDs that I would pop into the car and listen to and stuff like that. And, yeah, good stuff. Like you brought up the computer thing, like in one of his books, he talks about that, he's like, you got this new computer and he's trying to put in the data. And so whatever you put in is what you get out, and he talks about that in your mind, whatever you put in your mind is what you're going to get out of it, and, so that's, good stuff is right. Whatever you feed yourself is what you're going to get out. And you need to open your mind, and not limit yourself, and feed yourself with stuff from all over so you can make a more informed decision about which direction you're going.
Absolutely. And he calls it Automobile University. So,
Yeah.
folks, like if you're listening to this podcast in your car, that's Automobile University, because you're learning something that, in some way, shape, or form is going to hopefully benefit you to become the best version of yourself. And that's another reminder I like to say, because I need a reminder myself, is
Yep.
look, God created you unique in every imaginable way. You're one in 7.7 billion people on this planet. Don't try and cheapen yourself by being a cheap replica of somebody else. Hopefully you liked something in what Master Hill and I have talked about today, or any of the guests, or any of the podcasts or video blogs and live streams you've listened to. Take that and apply it to how it helps you in a specific way to become your very, very best.
Yep.
When I was, younger, and that was just yesterday, I remember that fed my ego, and somebody said, "Man, I want my kid to be just like you." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, finally." Now
Right.
I'm like, no, don't
No,
do that. I've got my flaws too. You
Right.
be the best version of yourself. Hopefully I can say something or mentor you in some way, shape, or form that's going to help you. But man, be you, baby. Don't be a cheap replica of me. I got
Right.
enough problems. Be the
Right.
best version of you can be.
That's right. Absolutely. Another
Well,
right
good
hook of
stuff.
reality
Well,
right
man,
there.
we've been going at it for an hour here. You believe that?
Yeah, I know. Okay, man, time flies. Man, I feel like we haven't covered much of anything. We covered a lot, but it's like there's so much more to cover.
Well, yeah, that just means that we'll have to have you on another one down the road a little
Man,
bit.
I was
And
when you reached out to me, that I was so honored. You're my first podcast I've ever been on, and
oh my gosh, you
I'm
did such a
honored
great
to.
job with it.
Yeah, I'm honored to have been on it with you, and I really appreciate the invite. And if I could ever be on or help you in some way to help, keep pushing that bullyproof, kicking life. And I'm always going to use the right hook of reality, but it's all credit to you. But I'm still going to use it to people. And hey, I tell people my good friend Rich Grogan, he's a right hook of reality, bam, and I'll talk to him about it. And I use it in my black belt class and my adult class, man. And sometimes you need that right hook.
Yeah, we do, and I appreciate that, man. You're giving
I
me
need it.
goosebumps here and touching my heart there.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. So, once again, those that are listening, Richard, how and somebody may have just tuned in here. Tell them once again where you're located, how they could get a hold of you, how to follow you, and by all means, if they're in the area, how to come visit a class and see you in person.
Absolutely. So my school is TX Black Belt Academy, Frisco, Texas. Under the TX Black Belt Academy, we have 9 locations, but I'm here in Frisco. I have the Frisco location, and you can reach out to me. If you're in the North Dallas area, give me a call. Send me an email, frisco@txbba.com. Look me up on Facebook, Richard Hill, or TXBBA Frisco on Facebook, and we're TXBBA Frisco on Instagram. I'm not all savvy with like all the other social medias yet, but that's where we're at. And just hit me up, and I'd love to, if I can help someone or just reach out to me. I'm happy to talk and help and, create more right hooks reality.
That's awesome. You got classes for kids and adults, right?
Kids and adults, yeah. So we teach karate. We teach kind of a blend of karate and taekwondo because our forms are, we've got some Okinawa, karate, some Japanese Okinawan forms, and we've got some taekwondo forms in our adult program. But our kids programs, all of our forms are created based off of the black belt principle, right? So each form has a black belt principle name, whether it's respect, self-confidence, discipline, self-discipline, self-esteem, motivation, leadership is one of them. Focus, goals is one. It's a big one. We love goals, and perseverance and responsibility. So all of our forms for the kids are created, and we do kids and adults, and we teach karate and jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and of course I do Japanese jiu-jitsu as well, and I teach that to some of my homeschool moms. Actually, it's crazy. I have like 4 ladies in my Japanese jiu-jitsu class for homeschoolers for their moms.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So folks listening, I'm telling you, that how's that sound? Think your kids could benefit from having more respect, more discipline, more perseverance? Yeah. And of course, us as adults, could we benefit from that? You gosh darn right we could. And essentially, that's what we've been talking about. The whole podcast, the live stream here is about those very, very things. And you hear me say this, but I continue to repeat it because I continue to water the seed that we've planted. Look, if you found value in this message, please share it with others. If you're in the Frisco, Texas area there, please jump in there and see Richard Hill and his program, because all it's going to do is help you, whatever goals you have in life, help you feel better about yourself, help you feel more empowered, help you become bully-proof, help you become a better parent to empower your kids, or to help your kids become better future leaders, whatever. Go check it out. But share this message with others to help empower them, because collectively, with that bang, right hook of reality, we're going to make society a happier, healthier, and safer place to live by collectively working together to make it happen. Things don't happen on their own. Seeds don't plant themselves in the ground. No, you got to put the work in. What does grow on its own is weeds. And there's enough weeds in society right now with negativity. Let's work together to dig those weeds up and plant the seeds we want for future generations.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Well, good stuff, Richard. Well, thank you so very much for your time. And gosh darn, we'll definitely have you on again here
Love to.
several months down the road, and maybe you'll have a new book you've started, or maybe your own live stream or podcast or something else you're doing to connect and draw a bigger crowd and following to your academy and to your message, because the world needs it, man.
Yep. A quick question for you, Rich. Where in Florida are you located at?
I'm in Palmetto, Florida. It's about 30 minutes north of Sarasota, 45 minutes south of Tampa.
Oh, okay. So my wife's family's from Eustis, Florida. It's out near Orlando, and my son's getting ready to leave here in the next few weeks to go to college at Full Sail, which is in Winter Park, Florida. So I know I'll be making some trips out there, and I definitely would love to swing over and make a day to swing over and see you. And who knows, maybe we could do it at a time. We can hit one of your podcasts, side by side.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, definitely. You got my number and stuff. And whenever you head this way, we're about 2 hours, hour 45, depends on traffic, from Orlando. So it's we kind of chose this location. We looked around quite a bit, but this was, I'm not, I don't know what the word is, not quite suburbanized enough, I guess is the word, for Tampa or Sarasota. But this little area is, heck, we got right around the corner, we got cows and horses and farms and everything else. And I grew up on a farm. So that's more along my stream. Our last place we had in Illinois, we had 3 acres. So we really didn't have too many neighbors. And now we've got neighbors, but I don't know. I love living in Florida, and I've shared before why the freedom of Florida and the beautiful weather. So that's
right. That's right. Yeah, we're in the process of selling our house and moving out to the country a little bit, and having a few acres of land for ourselves, and that's what we wanted to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle, and kind of do a little slower life. But I envision over the next couple of years I'll be in and out of. Well, my wife's family from there, so we'll be in and out of there quite a bit. But I'd love to, if it works out that we can hook up together, man, I'd love to do it.
I had to maybe get up, meet halfway somewhere or at a beach and do some training on the beach. There's nothing better than that.
Oh
And
man.
that would be fan-terrific, doing
Yeah.
forms on the beach or even in the ocean there. First,
Yeah.
you get there and you try and hold your stances in the ocean when the ocean comes crashing in on you.
That's
Or,
right.
or,
That's
or I'm being told, I keep saying it wrong. We're on the Gulf side, so that's not actually the ocean. It's called the Gulf. I'm like,
right.
all
Right.
right, whatever.
Got to get it right. Got to get it right. It's like
Get
that's like
right.
if I go to the coast in Texas, we're in the Gulf side too.
Yeah, the ocean is the Atlantic on the other side of Florida. You're in the Gulf. I'm like, okay. All right, whatever. I just know it's beautiful white sands and I love it. So,
Right.
well,
Yeah,
great stuff.
Thank you, sir, so much for allowing me to be on
You're
here.
very welcome, and thank you, buddy. I really appreciate what you're doing, and please continue. And once again, folks, you know where to find us. Grogan's BullyProof on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm trying to get out to many different sources that we can, and we're able to live stream this now to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, Grogan's BullyProof, it's available. Fortunately, now we're blessed worldwide and on any podcast app. Check that baby out. And if you're in the Southern Illinois area, we still have our martial arts academy, Grogan's Academy of Martial Arts, and we're rocking and stocking and continue to move along, which is fan-terrific as well. So come and check that out. As I mentioned, we're not for everybody, and that's okay. But if you really want your kids to learn and focus how to work hard and achieve goals and not be handed and give them something they didn't earn, well, then we're probably the right place for you. All right.
Awesome.
Richard, thank you again. Fans,
Yes, sir.
followers, thank you again for taking time out of your busy life, busy days. I appreciate it. I'm grateful from the bottom of my heart. And remember, I love you. God loves you. Richard Hill loves you.
Absolutely.
Please share that love with the world. Until we talk again, you get out there and do your best. And I promise you'll be your best. You'll become bully-proof. Yes.
That's right.
And you'll live your best kick in life. God bless you. God bless your loved ones. Can't wait to read your comments. Can't wait to chat again real soon. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye.